no warning and no chance. Mother Nature, you came and took away. So many lives are now gone. What a challenge to move on. Cause we mourn all you took away. But we shall overcome all the pain. Cause in our darkest hour, God is there. If we lend a helping hand in this time of tribulation, Dominica, we shall rise again. There's no time for segregation. Let's all build back our nation, Dominica. We shall rise again. We shall rise again. Ooh. Oh, oh. To the children and the elderly, to the leaders and the pastors, to the doctors and the nurses, to the weak and the strong. Let us work and come together. Let us help to build the broken. Come ye forward, sons and daughters. Let's all rebuild again. We shall overcome all the pain. Cause in our darkest hour, God is there. If we lend a helping hand in this time of tribulation, Dominica, we shall rise again. There's no time for segregation. Let's all build back our nation, Dominica. We shall rise again. We shall rise.
We share this painful experience together. Our hearts are aching, but our hope is not fading. Our tears are dripping, but let's join hands and hearts and soul. We will overcome. Mommy, don't cry. Daddy, don't cry. Sister, don't cry. Brother, don't cry. We will overcome. We will get through this together. Together we are strong.
Yes, indeed, folks. We are Dominica, indeed. Let me see a special greetings, a special welcome to all of you logged into this platform at this time. My name is Loftus Dura, Ible assisted, and here as well this afternoon in the flesh, Mr. Alvin Thomas. We are here with the Civic Vibes program. That program is aired each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock. Let me see a big apology right there for not being live, not having a live program for the past 2 weeks indeed, based on the number of calls, the number of inquiries as to Lofty, where's the program? I know you guys are always in tune whenever we are on. And so yes, we are on this evening with a very, very interesting program, a very interesting guest as well. You'll be hearing from him in just a while. An attorney in Dominica, I call him the Indomitable. That is Ronald Charles, Mr. Bing. Those of you in the Valley area, you will be well be acquainted with that nickname, indeed, Mr. Bing. He may just, tell us why that nickname, but when he comes on, he will choose to decide whether he tells us why they call him in the Valley in particular, Mr. Bing, indeed. Bing's Wolf. Indeed. So yes, folks, we are here. Arundel Thomas, myself, the Civic Vibes team. Those who are in the background doing that very important work to Alvin and I on show every Sunday. We always appreciate your hard work in the background. Indeed, folks, it is the 31st day of August 2025, and for those of you who may not have known, yesterday I celebrated a day, a birthday that is, It is not a day I normally like to put out there, but with the number of calls, the number of text messages I got yesterday, I said, you know something, I must let the cat out of the bag. So those of you who called who wished me happy birthday, I want to thank you very, very much indeed. And so thanking him, the good Lord above, for seeing me through another year indeed. But this afternoon, we have to move on. It is 5 minutes past the good hour of 6 o'clock. Those of you in Dominica, the region, and or further afield, thank you very much each and every time for your eyes and ears indeed. Alvin Thomas, I'm not going to say much more. Good evening to you, my brother, in a very special way.
Good evening, Lofty. I was wondering for a while why your face looks so bright and creamy. I wanted to ask the question. I see, but wait a while now. He's looking bright and creamy today. What's going on? Something is amiss. But now that you have let the cat out of the bag, I understand why. So, my brother, happy birthday. I did not realize we were from that same horoscopic tilt, the Leo, the Lions. Is that what it is?
Well, Leo, Lions, and the Virgo, they're right
kind of,
there.
Yeah, on the border.
Same paradigm.
Yes. Because this month was my birthday too. I celebrated a milestone. So, and I'm glad that I was able to, you know, when you get to that milestone, they say anything extra, anything after that is extra. So you have to make maximum use of it. The way you use it and chewy it, you know, like when you eat a mango and you eat and you try not the mango to finish, but at the same time you enjoying it. You know what I mean?
In the spiritual context, or in a spiritual context, it is called grace.
Grace. All right. Grace comes with gratitude. But yeah, Lofty, it's good to be back. I've been gone. As you said earlier, we've missed 2 live programs. I've been gone for the last 3. And it feels so good coming back. I know the folks have been asking. I have an uncle of mine in St. Croix who normally tunes in, and I want to say special good evening to that uncle of mine, Lloyd Daly, in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, a bigger brother of Ted Daly from DBS. And he sends me a note and he says, what's going on? What happened? So I was tempted to tell him I need some sponsorship, you know. But I said I will hold up on that one. But yeah, folks have been asking about the program, so it's really nice to be back. Yes, we are going to have a very interesting conversation with my good friend here, Ronald Charles. I can refer to him as a friend, a buddy, a mentor, someone I can call anytime and say, Ron, I got an issue. What's going on? You know, take care of that for me. That's somebody I can depend on. So it's really a pleasure to be having that conversation with Ron this afternoon. A real patriot, somebody who has his heart for country, who wants what is well for Dominica. So good to be back. I see our folks already chiming in and saying hello. They're on the live, and I can see them coming on excited already. We have 25 login there I can see on the Facebook Live already. So yes, it's really a pleasure. 2 days ago, Lofty, today is the 31st. 2 days ago, as you know, we celebrated the 46th anniversary of Hurricane David, Dominica. A long time. You may have been a toddler then, I would imagine. But it was an experience for those of us who lived through it. Of course, after that, we had Maria, but some people still felt, those who were able to live through the both, tell you, well, David was one of the worst. So I think as a nation, as a country, we've been very resilient people, notwithstanding the fact within a 46-year time frame, we've had 2 major hurricane category 3. We still continue to move on as a people. And that's what is so gratifying about Dominicans. And that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps you going, I'm sure, when we come every Sunday and have those conversations aimed at further developing, trying to develop our country. And speaking truth to power, as I always tell people, have a conversation with no animosity, no ill feeling, no bad will, but just to say, hey, this is what we want to see for our country, Dominica. So guys, a pleasure to be back. And I look forward to having that conversation this evening.
Yes, indeed. Alvin, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening salve, as it were. Let's just touch on some of the persons who are already logged in with us. Persons, please share the live as we're moving along here, make someone know that the program is live and they too can partake and participate therein. Gemma Daniel, good evening to you. Claralyn Warrington, Dorian Dorival, Brother Marshall Lawrence, Judith in the Cochrane area, good evening to you as well. Dorival Drygo, good evening to you, my brother. This brother have some very blessed hands indeed. I will not sell out the secret indeed. But Dorival Drygo, good evening to you. Kenda, Nicholas, you're watching on. Good evening. Eli Newton, you're also there, brother. Ferdinand Lawrence, good evening as well. Augustina John, our people from Grand Bay, represented here this evening in the name of Mr. Dangleben. That is the crew of Radio Abamango. Good evening to you, my brother. It's nice to have you on it first. Island Classics, you're also there. Magdalene Augustine, Jennifer Coffee, Alvin, anybody else you see here before we move across to Ronald in just a bit?
I think, let's see.
My brother Rondell Thomas is also there on the YouTube channel as well. Good evening to you and all the YouTubers as well.
I think you pretty much covered it.
All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for all those who are here. As I said, it is 12 minutes past 6 o'clock. And folks, let's get down into business now, as it were. We are done, as it were, with the, the formalities and getting things out of the way. Mr. Ronald Charles, we have him here this evening as our guest. I think it's the first time here on the Civic Vibes program. But Ronald, I can tell you, he's a constant viewer, a constant listener to the program, and always on occasions give me feedback whenever, we meet and we chat. And he has very, very high praise for that program in terms of the contents thereof. And so, just deliberating this week as to who we should have as guests to talk on a topic which is sort of legal in nature. We decided who better than Mr. Ronald Charles, a practicing attorney in Dominica, to come and help us navigate these legal waters, as it were. So I'm just going to read just a little snippet of the man, Mr. Charles. You'll be hearing from him in just a while. It says here, Ronald Charles, better known as Beng or Binsworth. In the community of Trafalgar, he's a volunteer, a friendly and hardworking man, a grassroots man, and a man who stands for justice, peace, integrity, and love. He echoes the saying and stands by the conception, the size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire. Again, let me just take that quote from Brother Charles indeed. He says here, the size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire. Continues here by saying, it is that belief that has driven him to become an attorney at law, a social worker, a community and youth development officer, a songwriter, and a loving family man. Born to Mary Gabriel Charles and Eugenia Charles, he was raised in a traditional home in Trafalgar, a village known for its majestic waterfalls and ecological beauty. His father is a former primary school teacher, sailor, businessman, sports fanatic, and agricultural extension officer, and is currently a lay minister at the Assembly of Yahweh. His mother, Eugenia Charles, the matriarch of the extended family, is well loved for her wisdom and for being a motivator for both her children and over 10 others that she cared for over the years. Ronald Charles, it continues here, has 2 children, Adele and Dylan Charles. Through his hard work in the various areas, youth development, sports, music, and law, architectural drawing, Ronald Charles has proven his commitment to community service and community spirit, and is always willing to reach out to those who may be in need of medical assistance through his fundraising activities. At the tender years of 14, he acted on his passion for community development. He became a member of the Trafalgar/Fokani Village Improvement Committee and assumed the chairmanship of that group at the age of 19, and subsequently a councillor of the Trafalgar-Fokani Village Council. Also, musically inclined, Ronald Charles joined the Lucas Band of his community at age 15, and to date remains the band's keyboardist and now the band's leader. It seems only natural for Ronald to follow his father's footsteps, or his family's footsteps rather, with his involvement in community sports. Since his youth, he has been involved in the Trafalgar Basketball League, athletics, football, cricket, among others. He also sponsors a community basketball team named Bullets. Bullets has won many local championships in the local Valley League. In terms of his education, Ronald attended the Trafalgar Primary School and the Dominica Community High School. In 1992, he graduated from the Clifton Dupini Community College, now the Dominica State College, with a diploma in architectural drawings and building designs. He subsequently earned a scholarship with the University of Sutherland in the United Kingdom, where he obtained a Bachelor of Arts in Youth and Community Development and graduating with honors in 1997. In 2006, he attended the University of the West Indies Caville campus, that is in Barbados, to pursue a Bachelor of Law. He graduated in 2009 from UWI and following this attained his legal education certificate, that is the LEC, from Trinidad Hugh Woden Law School in 2011. While at UWI and Hugh Woden, Ronald was actively involved in the student service and was the president of the Dominica Students Association at Cave Hill. At the University of Sutherland, he received the Dejanville Prize for the most outstanding foreign student. Ronald was called to the bar in October of 2011. Ronald worked as a youth officer at the Youth Development Division, that is a government department of the Ministry of Youth Affairs, on a part-time basis after completing studies at the University of Sutherland. He was later employed at Auto Trades Limited, Island Car Rental Department. In 2006, he was named Transportation Coordinator, charged with managing the recruitment of over 200 bus drivers and taxi operators who would provide transportation for the cast and production crew of Pirates of the Caribbean. Currently, Ronald operates his own law firm, that is Ronald Charles and Associates, located at 7 Cross Street in the city of Roseau, and employs 4 people. The firm is known for practicing criminal and civil matters. Finally, the nomination of Mr. Charles of Trafalgar as a political candidate for the United Workers' Party took place on December 8th, 2013, at a meeting of the Roseau Valleys UWP Constituency Association. He held that position of president of the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, from 2015 to 2017. Let me just take that last line. He held the position of president of the United Workers' Party, Team Dominica, from 2015 to 2017. Folks, there's many more attributes to our guest here this evening, Mr. Ronald Charles, but I hope that you guys got, a little more warmed up to him in terms of his contribution to country and the community. Mr. Charles, good evening to you. Good evening to the Civic Vibes team here. We also want to appreciate you for taking time to be here for us this evening. Good evening, sir. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. Good evening to you, Mr. Loftus-Dura and Mr. Thomas. Of course, I will not be left out. A happy birthday to you. And again, you seems to be getting younger. It seems to me you started at 100 and you're now going back. So you're doing well. And of course, Mr. Thomas, thank you for the warm welcome. And it's great to be here. It's good to be here. And I'm happy and I'm looking forward to the wonderful discussion, the importance of equal application of the law in democracy or in a democratic society. So thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. Ronald, in terms of, you being a community man, as I just read, can you just, sort of tell us some more of your community life in Trafalgar, where you're raised, and around Dominica by and large, in terms of your involvement with people and community?
Yeah, well, Lofty, this appears to me that it is ongoing, it is continuous, because even while we speak, I am the chairman of the Dominica Football Association Disciplinary Committee.
I've sat on that committee. I took over from Mr. Bruni. His soul rest in peace about 10 years ago. And so I've been there in that capacity. I'm also the vice president of the Dominica, of the Football Association in Trafalgar. And I continue to be the president of the Dominica Cycling Association for the last 10 years. So, I mean, my involvement in community has been rooted in Trafalgar. I want to take this opportunity to thank all those before me, people like Ayub Moransi, kind of, showed me the steering wheel to community work, voluntary work, work that does not necessarily get a paycheck at the end of the day. I have seen over the past years that have changed drastically. But you see, a sense of community is what makes you into a better being, a sense of family, a sense of closeness. And it starts within the community. And I believe growing up in Trafalgar many moons ago, that used to be the case. I remember vividly when Mr. Norris Charles, even Mr. Henry George were parliamentary representatives for the area, and we used to be involved in community work. We could come up to these gentlemen and just, tell them and put it on the table. And there was no issue as to whether or not you could say it or not say it. You would not be victimized. You would not be this. They saw it as a, young people just doing what they have to do to make the village festival that is Fet Kaiche what it used to be. So it was there. And then also the sporting events, though, I think that was important. And music, because I think music plays a fundamental role in shaping young people's minds. And I think during that time, having the opportunity to play with people like Ayub Moransi, John Joseph, and, Arthur Bellot, they gave me that little foundation because I did not have the money at the time to go to Christian school to learn the chords properly. So these were the guys that used to use a little, use their little pencil and so on, hit your fingers twice or three times and say, no, the note is wrong. And I think all that helped to shape us into who we are today. And that is why the good saying is who you follow in your youth will can have a very, very big impact on you. And therefore, this is where I am today. So community work is in my blood. I continue to appreciate it. I continue to love it. Sometimes I hate people to refer to me as a politician. I prefer the word community man because community does not really, the community man is a wider perspective of an individual within the community. When they label you as a politician, they label you for votes, and sometimes as a community man, it's a wider spectrum. So I prefer the word community man. So, Lofty, this is in a nutshell. I know you mentioned Bing and Binsworth. There are certain parts in Trafalgar and in the Roseau Valley. If you say Ronald Charles, people will not know who you're talking to. And I think maybe that was the detriment of my losing the election. Maybe they were looking for Binsworth and not Ronald Charles. So, I guess.
Why, and when did that name came about, Ron?
But that was from my father. You remember that in the small bio that you read, he used to be an extension officer and he also used to be a sailor. And I believe when he came, he was sailing one year, long time ago in the 70s or early 60s, 1960s. But when I was born, he gave me that name because he had a good friend on that ship named Bing. And therefore, he felt that maybe Bing is a good man. So he had to continue the legacy name of Bing Binsworth. So a lot of people know me as Binsworth within the community and not necessarily Ronald Charles. And so that is how I know the name came about. I don't use it very often, but it is one of the pillars of the community in terms of name. Yeah, that is how I know.
But is it on your birth certificate, Binsworth?
That's a very good question. And I was hoping that you would not have asked this question.
Well, you see, I learned from you, I learned from you.
No, it's not on my birth certificate.
Some of the legal insights I have, I picked up from people like you.
Yeah, it is not on my birth certificate, but you can consider it there in plain English.
Right.
Ronald, thank you, my brother, for your explanation thus far. Ronald, you are practicing attorney in Dominica, and we're going to delve into this much important topic.
But Lofty, hold that thought for a while. Let me just ask Ronald very quickly. I heard what Lofty read in the resume and what you just said. But what keeps you motivated to continue doing all of what you're doing and what you've just said and what Lofty read? What is that one thing that keeps you motivated?
I could say off the bat is the love for people. I have a special love for persons who, are the average persons, young people who, have it tough, because I know for a fact, I know what I went through. I know the challenges I faced when I was young, going to primary school and secondary school. Sometimes persons look at you, especially from, like, let's say you attended the Dominica Community High School, and persons would look at you and they say, well, those SMA fellows would say these are the, rejects, or, these are the guys that couldn't make it and they were not that bright. And, so I used to be, I was moved, and I continue to be like that, for the love of people, for the love of country. I believe we can do much better within our society, despite our political differences. I think this is where, if you really love people, you must do things to elevate them. Because I saw a quote from you, Mr. Thomas, this morning that was posted, and I appreciate it. And it's not about how many bachelors you have and how your bio looking nice and this and that, but it's what did you do for the betterment of somebody else? And that, to me, is gold. A matter of fact, diamond.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks. Go ahead, Lofty.
All right, Ronald, yeah. Thanks, Alvin. I was asking Ronald earlier. Ronald, you're practicing attorney in Dominica. And the topic on the microscope, as it were, this evening, it is the importance of the equal application of the law in any democratic country. We have pride ourselves as a democratic country, but we know how the application of the law in our country sometimes it goes. But just before you go into that, as a preface to sort of set up that conversation, Ronald, how difficult, how easy it is a challenge for you, Ronald Charles, to be an attorney in Dominica?
Well, first of all, let me say that being in the opposition, or being a community man that have a different policy and perspective on politics, and believe that, you don't have to always follow the crowd. If the crowd, if democracy is not being, evident in front of us. So the challenges one face is, as long as you sometimes don't support some of the policies of the government, sometimes it can be challenging. Persons, you find that also you come across a lot of people who within our society cannot really afford the fees that have to be paid to go to court, and therefore you have to assist them. You have to understand, notwithstanding the money that you may not receive, at the end of the day, that person's right must not be set aside. That person deserves, the right, especially in circumstances where you see, for example, a man occupy a property for 30, 40 years, or even 50, 60 years. His great, 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 great parents was on that land, and he know his father and know him. And you have people, just come in and tell them, well, the land doesn't belong to them, and, challenging them, and they do not really have the money and the funds to be able to challenge them. And I get a little kick from having to see an average man on the street getting the necessary legal representation to elevate him from the suppressors, or persons who may want to take advantage of him because he or she doesn't have the necessary legal representation. So these are some of the challenges. The other thing is sometimes, the economy itself is like a yo-yo. Sometimes it goes up very high and sometimes it goes up very low. The unfortunate thing is that it has been low for the past 30 years. So it is a challenge. It is a challenge. You have, circumstances where you need other lawyers in your firm. 2 free lawyers may be the best ideal way to do it. You can sometimes get, semi-burnt out because it's you alone. You have to look at every document, because the sad things about the society is this: as long as a document comes from your office, it represents you. So every document, sometimes you have to put your eye on it, including an email. So all those things, and these are some of the challenges I face and learn from, because sometimes the document may go out and one may just, throw one eye on it. And then when, your colleagues call you and you say, hey, look out for this. So these are some of the challenges, but I think the benefits outweigh the challenges in a sense, because it's not always about money. It's not always about how big your purse is, but it's about helping the average person within your community to elevate themselves so that they can have a better life.
Yeah, indeed. Ronald, let's get straight into it. In terms of the application of the law now in Dominica, you are a lawyer. How would you start to unravel that situation to us and for us in Dominica as citizens, as to how do you see that is playing out in the country as it pertains to the application of the different set of laws we have in Dominica?
Okay, that's a very interesting topic, and it's a wide topic. But however, I want to start by examining what is law. You just break it down nicely. And law is a set of rules that are created, right, and are enforced by social or governmental institutions to regulate behavior. In other words, Lofty, laws are another name for rules. Now, we have our constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. All right. We call it our big rule book. And basically it states, whereas, and I want to read this because I think it is important. In our constitution, it says, whereas the people of Dominica have affirmed that the Commonwealth of Dominica is founded upon the principle that acknowledge the supremacy of God, faith in fundamental human rights and freedom, the position of the family in society of free men and free institution, the dignity of human persons, and the equal and inalienable rights, with which all members of human family are endowed by Creator. All right, and it goes on to talk about the fundamental rights in chapter 1 of the Constitution. For example, one must understand that even as we speak of the Constitution, this book that I have in front of me have everything that's supposed to be the rules of the land and for persons to abide by them. So you have the fundamental rights on freedom, talking about life, liberty, security of persons, and the protection of the law, freedom of conscience, the protection of privacy. In other words, when people have their homes, and so you can't just walk in people's home and believe, well, because you're from the community, it's okay to do that. There are other fundamental rights, like the protection to life. We have an obligation to be able to know about these things. The protection of the right to personal liberty. All right. Now, there is an interesting one which speaks to the protection from slavery and forced labor. Sometimes we don't know. We need to investigate as to whether or not those things are going on. The protection from inhumane treatment, all those things important. And the other one that I just want to highlight is the right to political, preferences. You cannot deny persons from, choosing who they would like to support and government policies that they would like to support. So therefore, it is important that when one looks at the definition of law, our constitution, the examples, the next important aspect you must consider is what is democracy. All right. What is democracy? What do we mean when we speak of democracy? All right. A country where their laws are guaranteed. Democracy is often said to mean rule by the people. And examples of this system of government in which people vote their elected representatives into parliament. So democracy has a wide meaning, and it is important. But another important aspect of this, all right, while we try to, simplify the topic, that is to say the importance of equal application of law in democracy or in a democratic country. So one have to understand the rule of law, right? The rule of law. The police must enforce the law. According to the Constitution, these are some of the what we call the guard dogs of the Constitution. You commit a crime in the middle of Roseau, who can go arrest you? There is even situations where you can have citizens arrest based on the circumstances of the event. So one major organization that is the watchdog of the law, as I described earlier, is the police force. Now, the police have a Police Act, Chapter 1401 of the revised laws of Dominica, right? It serves as the fundamental legal framework governing the operation, duties, and organizational structure of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. This legislation set out the authority and responsibilities of the police officers, ensure the maintenance of public order, and enforces law within the island. So that is important. The Act grants police, and I want to take my time to say this, it grants police officers the authority to prevent and investigate crimes, apprehend offenders, and maintain public peace. It empowers, and then there is a certain section, obviously, that deals with the empowerment of the officers within the ranks and file of the police. So it's important to understand that the police plays a fundamental role, Lofty, within our society, because they are the watchdog of our Constitution, and they must be fair in whatever they do. They must show, and they must be seen to be fair, and they must be fair. Yeah. So the big question, Mr. Alvin Thomas and Mr. Loftus, is whether we have equal application of the law in Dominica. Whether or not we have equal application of the law in Dominica. And I would first want to say, just think about it for 1 second. And as you think of that question, examples of the opposite to this is running in your minds. Okay? In my view, the law is not being equal, and it is not being applied equally in Dominica. To me, we are on the edge of a precipice, and our democracy is already in shambles. And therefore, what we need to do, and I will go into it, and I don't know if you want me to continue at this stage, but I have examples upon which I believe we need to just touch on. But this is the prerequisites or the opening batsman as it relates to the issues that we are going to dive into in more detail.
All right, Alvin, I know you're eager to come in. Let me just ask Ronald now. Ronald, I know you touched on heavily in terms of the police. They are the custodians, as it were, of the law in terms of protection of people's rights and everything to go with the law. Juxtapose that now, Ronald. You read from the Constitution where citizens now have rights that should be regarded, should be protected by the same police that you said who are the custodians. Juxtapose the police exercising their responsibility versus the citizens now and our rights.
Right. Now, before we're looking at the citizens' rights and the police constitutional authority to enforce the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Before we go there, let me take it this way. Let us look at the famous March 19th. Everybody know what happened in March 19th. There were concerned persons who were expressing the fundamental right. And just before I say this, I'm saying this note on this without prejudice. And the reason for this matter is live before the court. So I wouldn't be going in details, as I am an attorney representing most of the persons that were arrested and charged under the Riots Act. So I'm just gonna use myself as an example. For this I can do, but I am not going to go into the ingredients of this matter. But I'll say this for the record. All right. Let us look at this, for example, the famous March 19th. All right. Now, Ronald Charles is an attorney at law. You heard his bio. Ronald Charles was not present at the activity on the 19th in terms of from the when during parliament session. He was not present. He was in his office. All right. When Ronald Charles, as an attorney at law, right, is representing persons that the same law speaks to, fundamental rights, access to equal, access to justice, the same rights that we're speaking of. He too becomes person of interest for the police. 9 days after. So I did all my work, did all what I had to do. Wasn't part of anything, all the allegations. But I was arrested in my office and taken to point B. The question remains, and that is where, when we're looking at the categories between, the same thing that the question that you just had, it's important to analyze some of the examples that would somewhat share a light on what we're trying to discuss, the importance of equal application of the law. And is it correct that an attorney at law is there doing his work? That is a man that is part of the judiciary, and he's doing his work, and the next thing you find in, he's been arrested. All right, there are more examples. What about the police themselves, allegedly, that were doing certain things? I don't want to go in details, but what about them? Why were they not pull up and question and say, hey, I saw you doing this, I saw you doing this, notwithstanding the circumstances surrounding what we're doing, you're not supposed to do this. So I'm going to arrest you, or I'm going to charge you. I'm going to send you to the commission. I'm going to do something. What about, for example, our prime minister allegedly saying, well, when they come in front of your door, water them up, hot water them. Words to that effect, and the question remains, what happened? Was he charged? Was he brought in for incitement? We see a young musician, just say something, which I wouldn't repeat before they come and pick me up before this program finished. Said two little things, and then boom, picked up. Because one is saying the proper and in your face application of, or the unequal application of the law against a certain sector of persons. For example, let us look at, there are more. Wayne James, if I may call his name, had a legal firearm. It's not in his presence anymore. It was gone, taken away. What did Wayne James do? Dr. Thompson Fontaine and Mr. Lennox Linton, Mr. Edison James, bogus charges. Good thing is it went to the High Court and it's no longer existing. They were exonerated finally. What about the Red Bench saga? Where in Dominica would the Red Bench saga, the police came, do X and go, and you come back and do Y? You'd be in the cells. I can guarantee you that. All right? So we are now saying that it appears to me that there is selective application of the law based on where your political preferences lie. And that is the problem. And the Constitution makes allowance for giving you that freedom of religion, freedom of this, freedom of that. You have a right to support anybody you want to support. And that the law should not be, geared towards, discriminating you. That is where the police comes in. So we have to understand that the dichotomy between what the police have to do, all right, and it's people in the middle, all right, and the results of what they're doing, you must be able to understand that people have rights. And those rights, you know, have to be exhibited, and they have to be able to be people within a society. What about the jelly bars? I call them the jelly bars. The jelly bars was removed, or they were removed, sorry. One would say maybe with or without notice. So I will use the word allegedly. But guess what? Those from the Bayfront, when they were removed, it was almost ceremonious. Nice little thing, no shouting, no this, everything nice and airy, no camera, nothing, no truck, no soldiers with guns. That is the difference. The Wednesday walkers. I just giving examples so that we can understand why I am convinced that the equilibrium of the application of the law in Dominica is starting to be eroded or have been eroded, or it's just over the precipice. And when Dr. Severin talked about it almost 10, 15 years ago, or what, at least 10 years ago, he was ridiculed. He was this, he was that. He said, hey, if we don't stop what we're doing, this issue of, lawlessness, Dominica is going to become a place that we cannot control. Everybody say, oh, he's doctor, he have his education already. These are the kind of way we attack people who were bringing sense to the natural, growth of our society. He was ridiculed. The Wednesday workers, are they protected? No. Rather than being protected for doing something, expressing their fundamental rights about things that they think that are affecting them, well, you'll have barriers coming up to prevent them from going from point A to point B. Why? Right? So the big question is, therefore, and this is a question I want your listeners for us to embrace. What are the consequences of this, Lofty and Mr. Alvin? What are the consequences of imbalance, use of force? What are the consequences? And the consequences is evident of what we are now seeing in our society. And we have to be careful, because I still believe that there is time to fix it. I'm sure that if the authorities were to call the election in December or January of 2026, it will be fixed, because there'll be a new government in town. And yes, it will be challenging, but I'm sure there'll be a different perspective on law and order. Law and order is what keeps a society nice and sweet. This is what balances everybody. This is what balances everything. That is why when you go to court at the High Court for a criminal matter, they use your peers as jurors to judge you. You know why? Because they are reasonable. They will tell you when they believe the facts that have been presented to them is reasonable, and you did do the crime or you did not do the crime. Because they've seen things. It's reasonable people. The law is not that foolish. The law anticipated that it's your average friends on the streets, the average man that should judge you. They're not going to put lawyers there to judge you. They're not going to put, because they don't see it from a reasonable perspective. What is reasonable? And therefore, the big question is, what are the consequences? I'm just going to list a few. And crime and violence. There is a notion in Dominica of no law, no constitution. When the statement was made, at the time, we all took it for a joke. We all figured, nah, man, that's not going to happen. We good. No, but allegedly, we have gone jurisdictionally with our illegal things, put it this way, as a society. The weakening of governance. These are some of the consequences. Corruption increases, and abuse of power. Economic decline. Do you see, look at, start down by the Bayfront. near where the Royal Bank used to be. Open your eyes wide and take your cell phone and start walking up that lane to reach Astafans and try and come up with the amount of local businesses we may have that used to be there and no longer is there. We are playing with fire. Look at the brain drain. Everybody now is looking for an escape route. Those who have been given the government scholarships to be able to come back to Dominica, a lot of them not coming back. They can't be bothered. Black market and illegality flourishes. I was watching a documentary on Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the most richest oil-bearing countries in the world. They have made billions of dollars from this industry. You must try and look at the documentary on Venezuela today. And you would see over the years that this country is flourishing in terms of enough money was generated from the oil and the this and the that. But today, people, man, I mean, it's not all part of Venezuela, and I don't want to take this action or this voice against the Venezuelan people. I'm talking about there are sometimes when you put people to manage this country or to manage a country, they must be conscious of what they're doing because there's a next generation to come. I don't have nothing against the Venezuelan people. Nothing. Because I understand what is going on. And you're telling me there are clips in this documentary where police officers are standing there and gangs are dealing with fellas live in front of police officers and they're not doing nothing. They're just like business as usual. This is a society, you know, and no offense to the Venezuelan people. I want to be very careful here. You know, but I'm seeing what the documentary is saying. You know, and this is bad for us. Erosion of our justice system and human rights. Why should a politician whose career is cemented in politics goes to the court, but as part of the bail conditions, you must not take part in any political rallies or anything like that? You're telling me this is right? This is my career. I'm a politician. You're telling me do not go on the stage and speak? And if I do that, you're going to send the officers and say, hey, you broke the condition. No more bail for you. It is revoked. And you tell me in a small society that we live today, we aren't able to see who are politicians. Because I'm the only one that want to be called a community man. You know, but at the end of the day, these are some of the things that solidify the issue of the unequal application of the law. And the watchdogs of the law must take it into consideration. There are certain persons within our society that have done wrong. And up to today, they haven't reached before the court. It's just business as usual. So, and our justice system, and this is what keeps us alive and kicking. Without this rule and without this order, this is like, and I wouldn't hold it up to compare it with it, but the Bible have similar quotation. Thou shalt not kill. You know, these are the same things that these are laws and rules and regulation, and it's from ancient time. We cannot do our society that. So the rule of law is the foundation of democracy. And when I say the rule of law, the enforcement of the law is the foundation of democracy. And who are the watchdogs of that democracy? The police force and all those who have been given that opportunity, I call it, to be a watchdog of law and order. And if we fail to understand this, we are building a society, because remember, we're a small society. And I have a message to the police officers. Gentlemen and ladies, this is a society that you have to take charge of. You have to be across the board. Because 20 years from now, most of us will be in our 80s. And when we cross the streets of the Commonwealth of Dominica, if we don't stop what is going on, you too will be part and parcel of this disaster that I pray that will never pull through. And the only reason why I believe there is hope that it will cease and desist is because I believe by the next elections, persons have to start thinking of the future of this country and not necessarily their own personal wealth and their own personal feelings, but think of it as a society, as a community. And that is why we have so many cameras now, because our people have moved away from watching each other's back. So when I leave and I go overseas, my neighbor not too bothered. What they take, they take. So I have to put on the camera to help me. But a long time ago, you could have left that door open. And by the time you come back after 2 weeks, you know all those persons who entered that house. And this is a society now that we're dealing with. When young people start to get frustrated, because, for example, we do not have the facilities for them to express themselves. So if we don't have the facilities and they decide to play in the middle of Roseau by Jay's there, their little football, and they put a goal thing there. And then you, Lofty, and Mr. Alvin on a holiday driving into Roseau wondering, hey, the man can be playing football there, and you end up touching their wicket or you end up touching their ball, and you end up in a big fight with them because you're not supposed to touch their ball. And then what do you say? They are disorderly? No, they're not, because we failed to do what we were supposed to do. And these are the things. So democracy rests on the principle that no one is above the law. So if Ronald Charles do something, not like the stupid example of the 19th, he didn't do nothing. Unless he didn't do nothing. He was just doing his work. And you arrest him, that's fine. When somebody within any organization, look at this, and we talk about America, and we say we love America, and look at if America has poverty, and the Dominica should have poverty, and if America does this, and who are we not to be? But in America, they took Trump inside. They arrested, they bring him before the court, they had cases against him. It shows that there is a sense, there's a feeling, there is an eyes opener for people within that society that even the bigger boss can be taken inside. That is what you call visibility of democracy. An application of the law where no matter who you are, if you breach, you have to pay. And therefore, equal application ensures that the laws are not tools of power for the elite, but a framework to bind everybody, from ordinary citizens to political leaders. And I spoke about the protection of rights and freedom. Equal application safeguard the fundamental rights of citizens that can trust their freedoms, and it won't be arbitrarily taken away. So when, little boss, and I've heard from all his family members, he haven't even killed a fly. If he kill a fly, he tend to say he's sorry, feeling bad. And a man like that has been taken before the court just because his political policy is different than yours. There's only a few of us now standing. And the reason why we are standing is not because we're not getting blows. It's not because we're rich and famous. It's because we believe as a society, we all could live in this society on a level playing field. And when you're wrong, you're wrong. And when you're right, you're right.
All right, Mr. Ronald Charles, very good note, high note to end on here in terms of our halfway mark. It is 7 o'clock in Dominica. And that is the time we normally take a little pause, play something in terms of music to sort of complement the conversations we're having. Alvin, I know you're there listening, you're taking in all information. I know you'll be unleashing in the second hour as well alongside Ronald. So let's do that right about now. We also thank those on YouTube as well following us. I'm seeing here as well, brother, former police officer, that is Mr. Enzo Irish. He's there on YouTube taking in the vibes, Rondell Thomas, and all the YouTubers, good evening to you. Our good old faithful followers on Facebook, good evening to you as well. Thank you very much each and every time for your eyes and ears. Ronald Charles, so far, so good indeed. We'll be back in just a bit. Let's take this one for Spider. Look how we come.
I don't need nobody to tell me what is going on in my country. Oh, I can see all the confusion, hatred, jealousy, and division. We don't have a sound economy, only hardship, stress, and misery. Those interests don't come from banana. Rosy gone and left us to suffer right and the Christmas season. 60 apples that were sold in tongue. Day by day, Lord, we keep going down. For that is how we come. All your bananas gone, your cocoa on the ground. Still waiting for the vision to come. And to make matters worse, look the apparatus, put a 5% sales tax on us.
That's the mighty Spider.
Going down.
Did this one some years back, huh?
And the whole country keeps going down slowly.
That is very, very real a situation today, huh?
Look at NBC. Banana industry.
If you're tuning in at this time,
It's going down slowly.
started that all-important conversation with the man Ronald Thomas, a practicing attorney in Dominica. Read the equal application of the laws of Dominica. And yes, so far so good from the man himself. Let's take another verse from the Spider. We'll be back in just a bit. Those of you who want to call the numbers on your screen, they are on as we speak.
Waving flag for the dead. I knew this would bring a curse on us. One day perfect things to get it worse. Remember the Holy Bible said, Yahweh takes no pleasure in the dead. If you think I just go tomorrow and not believe Thomas, your PRO, he'll tell you that abomination. Now be Sodom, that is how we come.
Now, if he's Sodom, that is how we come.
By affection, that is how we come. Though we mourn and we mourn, on the rain, on the sun, yet it's far and far we come. And unless we come out from this damn ignorance, our children just don't stand a chance. For we keep going down on the road to Sodom, and the whole country keeps going down slowly. We going down slow.
Folks, at the back end of this program,
Immorality.
we're gonna play you a clip from another attorney, this time from St. Vincent's and the Grenadines on the campaign trail, in the name of Mr. Israel Bruce. Has been here on our programs a number of times. So yes, you guys can look out for that, huh? A short clip from attorney at law in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mr. Israel Bruce, at the back end of this program.
Approach you letting the Arab boy take you and play with you like a toy. You must listen to the people's call. Be not fit for you see defense wall. I sent us one silver land of gold. For my kingdom is not of this world. All I want is just the people and God to build a nice recreational park. I tell you, we keep going down. For your motor, that is how we come. So no.
Mary Garraway and others, the WhatsApp number, it is 245-2396 or 615-9470. These numbers, they are on your screen. You could call or WhatsApp your information.
Millionaire. Rapidly, yes, we keep losing all our blocks. So that they will have mercy on us. Because he shall put us on a path that is wrong. And the poor people keep going down slowly. Slowly, slowly. We're going down slowly. Going down slowly.
Spider said we are going down slowly many years ago, huh? Alvin, what are we doing now? Are we still going down slowly, according to Spider?
I guess we might have to invoke the dead and ask him. Oh, boy.
All right, folks, let's get back to our guest here, Mr. Ronald Charles, attorney at law in Dominica, having that all-important conversation. He first read the application of the laws in Dominica to the citizens. Alvin, based on what you heard so far from the man, Mr. Charles, what are some of your takeaways?
Well, I think Mr. Ronald Bing Charles have unpacked quite a bit for us this afternoon. I mean, I would describe that as a law 101 session. You know, some of our folks on the live said that they're coming to class, and I think they have just gotten their first module, I would put it this way, Law 101. So I'm sure they're ready to ask some questions and to take the exams. But yes, Ronald has touched on a number of areas. And one of the things that struck me was that he started off with his constitution. And strange enough, Lofty and Ronald, this is exactly what I had before me this afternoon. That constitution. And I know folks might be saying, well, the Prime Minister said no law, no constitution. We don't have no law. Hey, guys, your constitution is there. And one of the questions I'm going to ask Ronald subsequently is how do we, or what advice would he give that we ensure that citizens are able to seek redress when their rights are being violated under the Constitution through the courts? Because he read the first preamble, section A of the Constitution, and I had section D, C, and D highlighted as well, where section C says, having asserted their belief in a democratic society in which all persons may, to the extent of their capacity, play some part in the institutions of the national life, and thus develop and maintain due respect for lawfully constituted authority. We spoke about the police. And section D says, recognize that men and institution remains free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. That's in the Constitution, in the preamble. You hear democracy and you hear the rule of law. And then interestingly now, in chapter 10 of the Constitution, under the section dealing with miscellaneous, section 116, which speaks of declaration of republic, Dominica shall be a sovereign democratic republic. That's in section 116. And section 117, subheading Supreme Law, states, this Constitution is the supreme law of Dominica, and subject to the provision of this Constitution, if any other law is inconsistent with the Constitution shall prevail, and the other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. So it is also interesting to hear Ronald made the point that when a matter is brought before the High Court, our peers as the one that serve as jurors. the carpenter, the tailor, the businessman, the janitor, whoever, they serve as jurors on the case. None of them went to law school like Ronald and did 4 or 5 year law studying law and what law said and what law shouldn't say and all of that good stuff. Or the judge. You know who's going to determine the matter, like he said? Our peers. This average 10 men and women that they took to serve as jurors on the case. Because it goes back to the fundamental principle of our Constitution. We the people. We the people. That is the fundamental part. And I'm saying this to say that sometimes, and I'm reading some of the comments on the chat, we make ourselves feel inadequate, or we feel helpless, or we feel, well, the government said this and that. Granted, they are operating the rule by law and not rule of law, which is a big difference. The rule of law serves to advance human authority and protect citizens from arbitrary power from anyone. Rule by law, on the other hand, is when the state uses legal principle to exert control and enforce it upon individuals and its citizens. So you have rule of law or you have rule by law. So my question to Ronald would be, Ronald, as an officer of the courts, and knowing what you know, and at this point, I really want to thank you for the service you've been providing to the citizens of Dominica coming out from the March 19th situation, because for those who may not be aware, there are as many as 24 Dominican citizens, 24 that is, if my memory serves me correct, I stand corrected, 24 that were charged and brought before the courts for exercising their fundamental rights under the Constitution. Now, these are not people that were out there trying to promote their own cause.
I think it's 25.
Got into a fight with somebody.
Yeah, it's 25.
25.
I think it's 25, yeah.
Okay. And got into a fight with somebody or anything like that, and they found themselves in problems with the law. These are persons who were standing up, and for whatever reason, the authority felt that they were wrong. And Ronald is one of the other attorneys, I know there are others working with him, that stood up for those persons. Civic Vibes always want to educate, inform, and at the end of the day, get people to take action. In all what you've said so far, as we look at the second half of the program, what do you say to the average man on the street, the citizen, who may feel intimidated, who may not be as knowledgeable of the Constitution and all those fancy stuff that you and I just quoted? What confidence is there in the court? And is there still that confidence? And what do they do? And what would you say to them when the government tried to rule by law and not rule of law? What do you say to them?
Yeah. And first of all, I want to commend that saying, rule of law versus rule by law, and which we are seeing that has germinated, one would say. And it was left up to the people of Dominica whether or not they want to continue giving it water to sprout higher, whether or not they want to kill the grass. And Lofty, this is not incitement, huh? So please. All right. So one of the ways that we can look at redress, let's look at it, let's break it up. Because I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a criminal violation, theft, assault, battery, one of the first things that citizens should be doing is to make a report to the police. No. In other countries, and I believe we have it in our constitution, I just don't want to take a chance to quote it, but we're supposed to have an ombudsman. And because if the police fail to take actions, because there is a certain gateway or a certain window upon which you should take criminal matters before the court. The only one that is exceptional to this is things like fraud and probably not even fraud, but more murder doesn't have a limitation period. Whenever it comes up, it will be dealt with, even if you're 100 years or more. So the first thing is to make reports to the police and ensure that your complaint is registered. And you can do that by just walking down to the police station making sure you talk to an officer in charge, ensuring that he or she takes your complaint, or in the alternative, if you have a lawyer friend, he too can accommodate you and to come to you with the police and to make sure those complaints are written down, because sometimes, sometimes we can have issues as it relates to that. All right, the prosecution too. There are some matters. If the police are lingering, playing cocoa maca, cannot get somebody to do what they're supposed to do, or always complaining that probably the vehicle is not available, sometimes you can go to an attorney and take private private criminal actions against those persons. The only problem is the bar is lifted a little higher because you're bringing your own case. So the other side will have, they can maybe come after you harder than if it's the police, because sometimes the police have the resources to ensure, for example, the evidence is protected, and the individual may not have that. But however, everybody should know that if you have a matter and you're finding that the police is taking too long to deal with it, you can go to a lawyer and file private criminal proceedings. All I will say to you is to ensure that when you do that, you have your necessary evidence or whatever it is done back, and it is done, and it probably save it with professionals, because sometimes you get the issue of whether or not evidence can be admitted into evidence based on the way it was gathered and or collected. It can be thrown out or set aside. So there are certain procedures that you need to follow. If it's a civil wrong, for example, tort, breach of contract, you give a man your car, he tell you he'll give you $500 for it, and time has passed, and he or she has failed to pay you, then you can take that matter to court. You can take it based on the amount. If it's $10,000, you can take it to the magistrate court. It's a simple breach of contract matter. And if it's above $10,000, of course, you can go to the high court. Again, people must understand that if they don't get a lawyer, because not every time you may be able to afford a lawyer, the legal aid services are there. They are there. You go to them, and they will be able to assist you whenever you come. If it's an issue, because you see, that is the problem with, that's not the problem, but that's what we face within our society. We have different matters, that may affect the law. So for example, the next one is, it's a constitutional motion. So for example, the 19th of March, people may figure, well, no, I have a right to speak. I have a right to speak on issues that affects me. And in the circumstances, one can go to the court for judicial review, Riot Act, whether or not the act it should be in existence in the time that we now live in. Just like the Dread Act. Do you believe the Dread Act should still be there? Any dread you see with locks, you shoot him on sight? No, this was just a cultural thing. So you can go for judicial review and challenge the whatever the issue is as it relates to as it relates to anybody tampering with your rights. So you can do that. And of course, I've always said to people, administrative law, when public officials act unlawfully. So when you have, all these public officials acting in a certain way or getting away with certain things, then that is where the ombudsman comes in. That is, our constitution speaks to it. But the question is, do we even know if we have one? Where is his office?
We do not have one.
We do not have one, but it is in our constitution.
Yeah, but we do not have
I may be subjected to correction, but I'm sure I saw this in our constitution.
It is in the constitution. No, you're right.
Okay,
but we have never implemented that provision of the constitution.
And I think that is fundamental, because if we had that, he or she would have an office space. You could bring your complaints. Those complaints would have been filed, and certain things can be done as it relates to that. But guess what? You may have to go to the same police officer to do it. All right? The same police officers who are not, and I'll put a caveat, because it's important when we speak publicly to put caveats where caveats are due. Not all police officers within the force following what is going on. It's only a few. All right. I believe there are still good police officers that means well. And they means well because they know Dominica needs them and they understand the fundamentals of the rule of law, but not necessary rule by law. And another way people can settle their problems, because sometimes you're seeking redress and it's not always going to the court and, you know, stressing out yourself. Sometimes it's about alternative dispute resolution, especially as it relates to family disputes. This is one of the best ways that I would advise anybody to go. You go in that setting where it's a win-win situation. Persons are allowed with a qualified mediator, and persons are allowed to express themselves, say what the issue is, and you get to the bone of the issue. Because sometimes the reason why Granny is fighting for the land still is just because you didn't tell her good afternoon yesterday and she vexed with you. So when you come to the mediation, you hear Granny saying to you, that is the only reason she fighting you. And that can be resolved in then you say, sorry, Granny, you know, I didn't realize that. And the matter is resolved. It even goes down to, there are certain aspects in other jurisdictions where I believe Sri Lanka is one of them. Sri Lanka or Pakistan, one of them. That even for criminal matters can be mediated, for especially things like battery and things that are not, you know, severe, you know, that people come together and they say, you know what, Judge, I think I was wrong. I think I'm sorry. I think I want to do this. I think, bam, matter finished. You might be a little fine. You might be warned. You might be reprimanded. You can't have matters. And the thing about alternative dispute resolution, it brings back a sense of community, forgiveness, a sense of, you know, moral obligation. It's not always fight the law to go into court and get, you know, aggravated. Sometimes it is very important that you and the person sit, especially for other matters like divorce, family matters, matters where you can speak it out rather than letting a judge determine the outcome of your dispute, because it creates lifetime enemies. But with alternative dispute resolution, I believe it's a good way. You know, you have a problem with a fella. Yeah, you might be, well, okay, you know, and there's a bad fella and you kind of, you know, concerned about your life, but who knows? You go with another person or a police officer themselves and you say, hey, man, you know, yesterday, you know, I was passing, my juice fell on you. I'm really sorry about that. I don't want that to create a problem. Oh, by the way, how much to clean your shirt? Okay, by the way, look, I gave you a new shirt. Hold that. And then that's it. So you can pass back there and don't feel that there is a sense of animosity. Yeah. These are the kind of things our society need to embrace, to understand that notwithstanding the laws that we have, notwithstanding the responsibilities and of the police to ensure that the law is enforced, right? Notwithstanding all of that, you still have other ways to get to the court and to get redress. But you must be persistent, and not because you're a poor person's child, you have to say, well, no, you have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go to the to this person. I'm going to talk about the matter. I'm going to see what can be done. So in my mind, they're different. You know, if it's a criminal law, if it's administrative law, if it's constitutional law, you know, you have different avenues of which you can go to try to get redress, because our society is small. And the more we can resolve matters on a level where persons can see eye to eye, it will be much better for our society. Before all of the, you know, and Mr. Thomas, that we used to in quotations, and I know I am in quotations, you have a little fight with somebody, you know, a koba. And 30, 40, 50 years ago, or let's say 40 years ago, you know, the same guy you had this serious little fight with, maybe, you know, he took too much dumplings in the plate and all, you have a little fight. The same afternoon, all you're cooking and laughing and thinking again. This day, when you touch anybody, it's like you almost fear for your life. This is a societal problem. This is something we have to curb. This is something we now need to ensure that the enforcement of the law must be equal. It cannot be sided. It cannot be one-sided, because that is the problem. And when persons feel like their rights are being tampered with, they get angry, they get frustrated, they want results, and that you can cause, disarming of society. That can cause moral breakdown. That can cause economic issues. That can cause crime and violence. That can cause beautiful Dominica become a war zone, because you cannot move from one point to the next because you have issues with people. And therefore, gentlemen, these are some of my recommendations to address some of the issues that the average person would need to address.
All your recommendations, and let's just speak, and appreciate your response, but let's just segue a bit. As you can see, a lot of what's happening back home sort of stems to the young people too. A lot of the crimes, if I may put it this way, the drive-by shootings, the cutlass, the this, and all this other stuff, the young people somehow get into that. What do you think is the driving force? I know you kind of hinted to some of it in your presentations already, but what do you think lends to that? And again, finding solutions. What do you think could mitigate against some of that? I know you mentioned the fact that there is no sporting facilities for them to think. I know you're involved in football. From your CV, you involved as a cyclist. What are some of the things you think that would take away that energy, or not take away the energy, but help young people to release that pressure and that energy?
Okay, that's a very good question. And I think I will take this opportunity to put on my political hat, not my community hat, and say one of the first things we have to do in Dominica is to get rid of this government. And then a lot of things will be fixed. And I use that as a premise. And I have no, when I say get rid, I'm not talking about any violence in terms of getting them going to vote, getting them out. And therefore, the people have to express the most fundamental right, that is the right to vote. And I believe now is the time. Sometimes it's not about fighting and making noise and all this. Sometimes it's about individuals taking up a position to save their country. It cannot be about what you're going to receive. It cannot be about anything else. It have to be about country, love for country and love for the next generation to come. So I think what we need to do to fix, unequal applications of the law, or one would say, try not to rule by law. The first thing I believe is that one needs to strengthen the rule of law. Now, who are the guards? The police. So these are the guards. So if you're going to strengthen it, you need to put people in positions that understands the Constitution, understand the fundamental rights of people, and understands that everyone, no one is above the law. That is where we need to start. Because it means that if Ronald Charles does something and he's wrong, he'll be picked up. It's not about he being a lawyer. It's not about he being community man. It's not about anything like that. He did something wrong. The average man see did it wrong, and therefore he's picked up. We must start by protecting the rule of law. And the guard dogs for that is our lovely little police force who understands the Constitution and will be willing to work towards that. And to work with odds that you'll get blows. But at the end of the day, you are building a society that you, when you're the age of 90, will be proud of. Because you can cross Astafans with your walking stick. And even if you have $500 hanging from your pocket, the young man will say, sir, your money falling off of your pocket and put it back. Compared to with going with not only you, but the pants in which the money is falling over. Promote of accountability and transparency. Why is it? For God's sake, we have so many issues surrounding this citizen by investment. We don't know who have our money, and if we do know, we don't know where it is. There is issues surrounding that. There's an issue of due diligence. There's so many things surrounding our bread and butter. This is ours. This is not the government's own. This is the people of Dominica. This belongs to them. And therefore, if you are using it to enhance our society, to build roads and schools, then just let us know what you've collected. Let us just see it black and white. And let us know what you're spending. What is wrong in being transparent and accountable to our people? It's supposed to be in a consolidated fund. Why is it not going there? Why are we hiding so much important issues from our people? And when you speak like this, people say you don't like this and you don't like that. And they will start then attacking you personally. And then they go after your character. And then they start saying things, all kind of things. But you know, love to show me how to wear my dashing live since after 2013. So things as a slide off now. Time like before I would worry, but not at all. There are two ways in life that I have a little bit of diversion there. One, some people will always like you no matter what you do. And two, some people will never like you no matter what you do. No. So the promotion of accountability and transparency is important. The publicizing of legal processes like what we're doing there tonight. Not just gun and amnesty. How do you call it, Lofty? Lofty, you're good at that. You know? Not just about saying bring in the guns and then that's it. Yeah. What are the rules surrounding a proper arrest? Or what are the rules? You know,
so basically, Ronald,
about,
you're talking about public engagement. The police
that is
needs
correct.
to have, yeah.
Community policing.
True.
You know, why is it that the chief of police, you know, go down to the different blocks and talk to the young fellas, have an engagement, understand them. If you come in on the block and you're a police chief and you know that your aim was to talk to the young people, I mean, you see a partner ever leak a spliff. You don't start it by arresting him. It will create chaos. You pull him aside, you talk to him, you know you're the chief of police, he put it away, because at the end of the day, they say we can have free trees at our home. And all those things that we use, you know, to sometimes promote votes. So there will be some big announcements in October. Surprisingly, in October. The budget was passed in May or whenever it was passed. But we're getting the effects of it in October. You know why? Because you must entice the voters. You must take young people and then take them on another ride. And that other ride is, hey, Dr. Thompson Fontaine spoke about his 10 pillars, and one of it is to ensure that the minimum wage is increased. Now, I'm not an economist, so don't ask me questions on that. But all I'm saying is this. But you put it to October. You know why? Because young people need to know, just like the marijuana plant free at their home could happen. Now you go to a function and everybody, and not that I have anything against the young people, but you see the atmosphere. It's like, hey, they say we have free trees at our home, but I can have free trees in a jam. I can be anywhere with my free trees. And these are some of the misconceptions. So that community policing, Lofty, that you alluded to is important. Sure. Holding leaders accountable. We need to hold leaders accountable. People cannot be getting away with things. Look at Trump. I mentioned it earlier. He lapsed. The FBI, the CIA, whatever you call them, they're on his back. They are on his back. He's the president of the United States of America, one of the strongest nations in the world, with all kind of things. Yet still, he's taken before the court. So you can see that notwithstanding what people may say about America, and they use America like a backdrop to say, well, if America have poor people, we can have poor people too. And if America can't pay their bills, we can't pay our bills too. Some kind of ridiculous thinking. And whereas you've got an opportunity to make this country great again. Yes, to make this country great again. And you use it lavishly without due care and attention to the well-being of the next generation. You're just doing your thing because you're living your life. And then 10 years, 15, 20 years, we have issues. And the last thing I would want to say is, yeah, and I said it before, after 25 years, Mr. Lofty, change the government for a better Dominica. And this is the way I believe these recommendations can help fix the unequal application of the law in a democratic society like ours.
All right. Well said. Well put, Ronald. Thank you very much for your very, very motivating and inspiring thoughts so far. Alvin, we have not just Ronald talking to us, but we also have our viewers, our listeners. They too, they are part of the conversation. And I think right about now it is the opportune time to go to that live feeds to extract some comments from them and get what they're saying there. Some may be directed at Ronald for his response or responses indeed. So let's try to do that now before we continue. And folks, remember at the back end of this program, we're going to play a clip from another attorney, this time from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in the name of Mr. Israel Bruce. We have on the YouTube, Alvin, whilst you look at the Facebook feed, Marshall Lawrence says here, democracy was meant to bring unity, mutual respect, and social harmony. Ronald, are you in agreement with that?
Say that again, repeat it again.
Marshall Lawrence says,
yes,
democracy was meant to bring about unity, mutual respect, and social harmony, he says.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what this speaks to. You know, this is why the Constitution is so clear as to the fundamental rights of persons. Because once you're not interfering with my rights as an individual, of course we'll have unity because you're not touching my rights. But when you start infringing on it, when you start, doing things contrary to the Constitution, of course it will bring disunity. So I totally agree with your online comments.
Indeed. Someone is texting me here privately, and that person says she or he is texting from Texas. A play on words here. I am really looking for change in government, a government that will be for all the citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica. After living abroad, that person says, for 40 plus years, I am also at the end of my retirement, and I am planning to move back to Dominica. It is sad, very sad, when people tell me you are going back to Dominica under Labour Party, that person says. I am not. I will not be begging. I have my plans in place. I am looking towards a change before I get there. Ronald, that is one person listening and watching, basically complimenting at least a comment you made before in terms of that much desired change.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because you see, when one look at the guards, which is the police, you then have to go up one notch. And then you have to ask yourself, well, who are the real policy makers? It's the persons that you select out of the 21 constituencies. They go and they take certain portfolios. And then they bring in laws and so forth to Parliament, like the recent bills that have passed in terms of your most fundamental right, and that is the right to vote, and people are playing with that, and people are giving haphazard instructions. At the end of the day, you said to the people of Dominica that, hey, the opposition is not ready for new laws as it relates to electoral reform. They don't ready. They're messing about. But a week ago, you came back and you say, hey, we need some more time through the commission or the electoral office. Yes, rightfully so. Because while you are trying to blame the opposition for everything to do with your management, because I cannot go up to the ministry and just order people, okay, order the machine now to do the voters ID card. Okay, order this, do that, do this. I can't do that. That's an administrative role. That's the government role. So while you are so ready for election, the question remains, why is it today you're still asking for extension? Because one can draw the inference that the electoral office is not yet ready. So they need more time. But why all that was going on and you're really interested and you have said in your budget that 6 million will go towards tools and equipment. You mean to tell me you could not have ordered the equipment before that because you're so interested in it?
All right, Ronald, point taken. Alvin, any more points on the live feed that you want to highlight?
Well, there's just
Yes,
one
sir.
comment I just read there. It says, Dominica is a police state. The police bend to the whims and fancies of the DLP politician. That is so sad. So my question really based on that comment that from the person, if we are, and I'm saying allegedly in quote unquote, if we get to the point of being a police state, where do you see us heading, Ronald? And I know you mentioned several times that there is need for change in the administration, and of course, let me just from Civic Vibes, state that it's the views of the guests, not necessarily Civic Vibes. But
Right.
if that seems to be the case, and the guardrails are now down, what do we do in the interim until such time we're able to change who we have elected? What recourse does we as the people have? And how do you deal with that situation?
Well, the thing is that civil society must speak. The civil society must speak.
And
Our
expand on
people
that. Expand on that civil society. Expand on.
Yes, civil society must speak in terms of, the opposition, in terms of other political parties. People must speak. They must speak to the issues that are affecting them, and they must collectively, and the young people must be totally involved because it's their country. The future is in their hands. So therefore, people must come out and speak. Civil societies must understand that. The checks on the police. Now, we need to implement our ombudsman. So how do we check on the police, Papa Bodie? How do we check on them if we do not have the necessary mechanism? And the government must not be the one to select the constitutional ombudsman. It shouldn't be. Why? Because you want them to be very, very transparent and on a level playing field. Because if he's a government appointed, I can guarantee you that person is going to be like driving a nail through some solid rock. It'll be difficult. So we have to understand that we have to put checks and balances in place. Also independent media, like Civic Vibes are bringing, and just an example, are bringing the issues to the people so that they can understand. I strongly believe, for example, what is happening tonight should be broadcast on every single radio station because we want the whole world to be able to understand that what we're doing here is not to try to bring down a government. They may have done it or they may have worked towards their own detriment by the way they manage this country. So when persons believe that it's time for them to move on, it is not about, I don't like scary. A matter of fact, I have absolutely no personal issue with any single minister. You can ask any one of them. Every single one of them, I can have a discussion with them. I have no problems with them. I have a problem in the way that they manage the resources of this country. And that is what I'm objecting to. I don't go after people's character and all that. Whatever they do, they'll do. That is their and their God. But what I'm trying to say, these are some of the issues that we can address in order that we can fix up things, And then the other thing about it is the police themselves, the watchdogs themselves. They need to have some high profile meetings among themselves and say to themselves that, hey, we need to do this differently. You can't bench me in and then bench me out. Yeah, be the way the police works. It cannot continue. If you arrest me and I see the reasons for you arresting me, that's fine. And then I see somebody doing something similar and you're not arresting them, it's going to affect society. And then you're going to bring chaos and tribulation worse than any hurricane because they have
Ronald,
always said that. Yeah, go ahead.
Ronald, you mentioned it earlier, but I just want to go back there in terms of just before we wind down to sort of really drive home a point that where Dominica is in terms of law and enforcement. You spoke about the Red Bench saga. And a lot of people, when their response to that situation, between humor, laughter, and people respond differently or responded rather differently. Ronald, that situation, as simple as it may have looked, it is a very, very telling situation as to where we are as a people, as a country, as it pertains to the subject matter tonight in terms of the equal application of laws in our country. Ronald, it cannot be. It should not be. It is unfathomable that the police in Dominica took a stand against what they deemed then to be something anti-law, I would want to believe, or anti the peace and prosperity that you spoke of as per the Constitution. And it is said, it is rumored out there, allegedly, that a minister basically had the police to undo what they deem fit and proper as it pertains to their responsibilities to the society. And if that is where we are as a country, Ronald, we are in a very, very bad state.
Well,
it was this police officer, Claude Weeks, former that is, who basically told us exactly the state of the police was back then. And he didn't mix his words. He said, and I'm quoting him now, the police service, the police is at an all-time low. And Ronald, that saga, it basically encapsulates, put in real live and living color where we are in terms of the selectiveness of justice in our country. Right. And it should not be a politician would get so involved allegedly because that politician name that has been mentioned have yet to come out and clear his or her name. And so up until that time, it remains true in the public's eye, where the police, as you rightly said, it is the force to enforce those laws, would do certain things, and a politician allegedly would come in and step in and undo what the police deem fit. Ronald, we are in a bad state. And as you said rightfully, it is the citizenry of Dominica who needs to come now and say, you know something? Our country has been at that crossroads for too long. And we are going to put aside this, you know, this little partisan favors and whatever it is that we are accustomed of getting and look at the benefit in ensuring that law and order is maintained and regain our country through the democratic process. I rest.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, sometimes we even have to go a little bit deeper than that. Because you see the young people that suffers from the bench syndrome. My take on this is kind of indifferent, which is not really a word, but it is different in the sense that when you have so many young people unemployed, that is the problem. When you have a government that appears to be corrupt and they're choosing their friends and their good friends to give everything to them, that is the result of those things. When you have a police force that some, and I'm saying some, allegedly are within a certain sector that they get a command from somewhere else, we have a problem. And therefore, what we need to understand as a people is that we do not have to domesticate our issues. We must go internationally. We must touch on the UN. We must touch on our regional counterparts. The question is whether or not they're doing the same. But we must go further than that and be able to capture our society, because the Caribbean people, we all are from Africa. We just settle in different constituencies, as I say it. Or one would say jurisdictional constituencies. But we're same thing. You go to St. Lucia, it's the same kind of issues that is enveloped within the society. You go to Grenada, St. Vincent, it's the same kind of issues. So we need to arrest that. And to arrest that is for people to wake up, especially the young. They need to wake up and wake up in such a way that they must start reading. Because a lot of our young people, sadly, they are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're wherever. but they tend to read less. They will read when they go to the college and they probably have an assignment, but then they will still use Chat GPT or AI or something to get answers for them. So the brain is not as the brain should be more functional, one would say. And therefore, our young people deserve a chance. Our young people must not be seen, but they must be heard. Our young people must not be seen, but they must be heard, because they will fix or unfix the society that we live in. And if you give them the right tools, the right direction, the proper, law and order, police officer arresting you because you did something wrong, and everybody will agree with him. You can't come and arrest one that did something, and when you come and arrest the other one, you're saying, well, the bigger boss call and say, leave this one alone. We are segregating and destroying our society.
But let me push back a little on you, Ronald. And I agree with what you said in terms of the young people taking their rightful place. But where do you bridge that? Because if the young people see bad examples, they don't have
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
There are no mentors for them. I think it's unfair to just throw it at the young people and say, well, young people, you do this, young people. Because when I grew up as a young man, I had certain mentors that I looked up to. I had certain persons there that I that gave direction, that maybe made me who I am today and give me some of that foundational thing. I talked to about my alma mater, my school, for example. I mean, I grew up during the eras of the 70s, during that time at SMA, and we know what happened there. So we had that. So where do you,
Alvin, so are you suggesting we don't have this quality and kind of mentors that you're speaking of today?
I am sort of promoting that. I am pushing that. Yeah. So and what do we do? Because yes, the young people has to, but we have to be there to sort of guide them. To them, to work with them, to do that. And I think that's why earlier I even referenced sports. We haven't delved into it because I know that in itself would be a complete different program. But where you have young people do not have that mentor, do not have that role model, do not have that escape valve where they can go in Windsor Park like I did as a young boy, play soccer, burn out all that energy, play cricket, play this, do that, then you have built up energy now that goes in the wrong direction.
Agree.
So where do we come in, some of those who are not as elder as me, but like maybe you and the Lofty, and some of us, to provide
we near you. No, what I'm thinking, I am not, because I'm an advocate.
Ronald, just to sort of give us some guidance there, we have 5 minutes to read the clock and we have to shut it down in like 5 minutes time. So if we sort of bring those points together, drive home some points, and then we can surely shut it down in the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay. And I like the topic, notwithstanding that the importance of equal application of the law in a democracy. But you see, the young people aspects to it is very, very important. And when we use this medium like Civic Vibes to talk to young people, it's important that they too get a feel as to what they can do. It's important to know what they can do. Yes, we have an issue with the examples that they're receiving, but they too must take up a role to say, okay, what can I do? And some of the things I believe.
I agree fully.
Okay.
On that point.
Yeah. Okay. They have to say, education and skills. Get involved in the community, like what I did. Mr. Loftus Durant and the world listening far and wide. I, Ronald Charles, when I was involved in community work, and I am here where I am today because of my involvement in community work. No other reason. Because the community helps to build you. And I know time is running out. So let me say this finally, because I know you all have to close up. I'll say this.
We'll bring you back for part 2. Don't worry.
No problem. We're going to talk about the young people's sports. But finally, the breakdown, in my mind, the breakdown of law and order undermines peace, stability, and development. replacing them with chaos, insecurity, and suffering. Our young people, therefore, must not be seen but be heard, cause they are grappling with needs and new direction. Our political persons or government must understand that this country doesn't belong to them and their only nitty, sector. It belongs to generations to come. Look at the countries that are prosperity. Sorry, China, United States, Japan. Look at these countries. Ask yourselves what they're doing. They're doing things to ensure that the next generation continue to have economic power. What are we doing? And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Mr. Loftus-Durant, and of course, Mr. Alvin, for giving me the opportunity to speak on the topic, the importance of equal application of the law in a democratic society. I believe there's more to that one could speak to, but I appreciate and I'm really happy to have had the opportunity to speak to your audience and your people this evening. I wish you longevity, and as I say, I'm looking forward to the next CNN. This is Civic Vibes.
Ronald, thank you very much. Ronald, just before you go, there's a clip that we want to play from Civic Vibes, a contemporary of yours. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, he's also a practicing attorney and also in the political arena like you.
Oh, good.
We have a short clip in terms of his deliveries, I think last Thursday in his constituency. Let's see if we can pull up that clip now, play that clip once or twice before we go. Get your comment, Ronald, and then we'll bring it to a wrap.
Thank you.
That is Mr. Israel Bruce, by the way. He appeared on Civic Vibes a number of times before. He had this engagement with his constituents. I think he's vying for the South Central constituency in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Allow me to say this, because there are those who want me to forget that outstanding and ambitious civil servants from this constituency, some of whom had the pleasure to serve the people of this country, are at home without a salary. We will not forget. I, Israel Ronald Bruce, will not forget your cries, public servants, your cries, police officers, your cries, teachers, your cries, doctors, your cries, nurses. And so upon the election of your humble servant and an NDP government, we will bring the vaccine mandate to an immediate end. If they don't stop the appeal at the appellate court in the Privy Council, a new Democratic Party government within the first week will give instruction to the new Attorney General to discontinue the appeal and give civil servants what rightfully belongs to them, their jobs and all the benefits.
All right, basically, we're going to play that one more time, Ronald.
Allow me to say this, because there are those who want me to forget that outstanding and ambitious civil servants from this constituency, some of whom had the pleasure to serve the people of this country, are at home without a salary. We will not forget. I, Israel Ronald Bruce, will not forget your cries, public servants, your cries, police officers, your cries, teachers, your cries, doctors, your cries, nurses. And so upon the election of your humble servant and an NDP government, we will bring the vaccine mandate to an immediate end. If they don't stop the appeal at the appellate court in the Privy Council, a new Democratic Party government within the first week will give instruction to the new Attorney General to discontinue the appeal and give civil servants what rightfully belongs to them, their jobs and all the benefits.
All right, Ronald, basically that is Mr. Israel Bruce, a contender for the next election where he's promising the civil servants, those who were denied some benefits in terms of their finances, read that COVID era. He's basically, you know, doing what a politician ought to do, making some promises to them about their benefits that were denied. Your take, and then we close.
Yeah, but let me just say this: we have similar examples in Dominica. I mean, one may say it may not be before the court as he alluded to, but the situation that I have an issue with, and I really want the government to pay attention to this, is the government-assisted schools or the non-government-assisted schools. What we find happening, the teachers within those organizations are getting the government is not very kind to them. And what I can say to them is that, and a lot of teachers have been complaining about this, you know, there's been no, you cannot tell me that these are the same teachers that doing the same work with the same students for Dominica, but yet still you treat them differently. And I think that it's time that the government needs to put a policy in place that all schools across the board, from community high school down to Cassie Bruce, at the end of the day, across the board, get all the benefits that every other school receives. And I think it is important because these people are going to grow older. These people need that benefit that they need to get. And of course, like my colleague, I will continue to say that the United Workers' Party, with our leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, has articulated our 10-pillar project. And I'm sure that has been taken into consideration on some of the areas of improvement to include, and not limited to, obviously, the wage increase and all those things. We believe, and our leader believes, that Dominica can do much better than what it has been doing over the past years. And now is the time. And that's what I'm saying, that at the end of the day, the people say, okay, well, don't talk about it too much because the Labour Party will implement it. But the question remains, if they implement it just before elections and then they go back and give you that same old nonsense and the same unemployment and the same guay, I believe now is the time for us as a people to put down our foot and tell this government that they have done what they could have done. They can't do more. They're saturated. That's the end. And therefore, new persons, new minds, new vision, fresh people need to come on board to make a serious difference within our democracy. And I'm sure that the application of the law in terms of equal rights will be across the board. And I'm sure our people will benefit from a police organization that understands the fundamental rules and its constitution and understands its role as the safeguards to the constitution and to its people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ronald. Final comment before Alvin comes in if he's wrapping up comments. Clyde Gregoire right here. Singapore would be a good example of an island country that started from scratch and made it. However, in Dominica, some people like to see ugly just for laugh. And those that mashing up the country, the prison, not seeing further than their nose, that they're destroying themselves in the process. Clyde Gregoire, his comments. Alvin, you're wrapping up.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just begin by thanking Ronald for a splendid, excellent presentation this evening. Conversation, I would say. I expected no less from him, and I think he did justice to the conversation. I know there's a lot more that can be said and could have been said, and he just has pretty much scratched the surface. But as far as, like he rightly pointed out, the rule of law is a foundational concept in any democracy. And that is ensuring that everyone, including the government itself, is accountable to publicly known and equally enforce the law, not in any sort of arbitrary manner, and that therefore it protects citizens by preventing the abuse of authority and guarantees that the law applied equally, fostering a stable economy where citizens have a voice in key aspects of their development, and that is enshrined in the Constitution. So again, it is not the question of rule by law, but the rule of law. And I think that distinction needs to be made. And we at Civic Vibes, the purpose of this program, when we bring our guests, is to enlighten you, to provide the information, arm you with the information, the knowledge, and that way you can take some action. The views of the guests are not generally the views of Civic Vibes. It is the views of the guests. And what we're doing is really to ventilate that conversation. Just a couple of days ago, I saw a very stimulating debate in Jamaica taking place between the two leaders of the parties, the Jamaica Labour Party and the opposition party, having what I think is a very useful exercise, a very stimulating exercise. I mean, if you want to put yourself up to represent me, the people, represent us, the people, then I see absolutely no, there shouldn't be any difficulty why the two leaders of the two major parties on the island should not have a debate. Hence, I'm saying that the Prime Minister of Dominica and possibly the leader of the United Workers' Party should engage themselves in a debate, stimulate the ideas, the discussion, and let we, the people now, out of that, make some sort of determination. That is what you expect in a democracy. And when we come on Civic Vibes every Sunday, that's basically what the intention now, to provide information, to bring in a guest that can share with you, and that way you are left much more informed in order to take the right decision. And yes, our young people have a major role to play. I think the future rests with them. And therefore, I just want to say thanks to all the folks who are still with us, who really hang on up to the end. They don't leave, Lofty. They stay till the end. Want to say thanks to them. Without you, that the program would not be as engaging as it's been. And you can always go back and look at it on the various social media platforms. So again, have a good week, a productive week, a blessed week, a safe week. And hopefully we'll see you next Sunday with yet another stimulating conversation. Ron, we're going to bring you back. So stand ready.
Thank you.
To do
Always a pleasure.
All right.
It was a pleasure, and thank you to your production team and, of course, your viewers. May God continue to bless this wonderful country while we try our best to bring and open the light that is needed, bring a change that would somewhat embrace and enhance the principles of our Constitution. And, of course, our people will only grow further, wider, and better.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
I'm in NEP, working for small money.
Oh. All right, folks, we end with this one entitled Dream Killer. From our sister Nashal.
Once I had a dream.
Mr. Marlon Jodel, big up yourself as well.
Politicians hold significant power. Shape the future for you and me through the right decisions, policies, and leadership. They can either empower the young people or create barriers that will stifle our ambition and potential to be the best we can be. So, Mr. PM, what's going on? The more we try and try, we still staying down. You created an illusion, an imagination of a bright, prosperous, wealthy nation. Some call you a mama Gaia, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer. We had plenty hope, but now we can't cope. You're a dream killer. Disregard of mental health while you busy gaining wealth. You're a dream killer. From the NEP, working for small money. You're a dream killer. You present a lot of things, we believed in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. Made a lot of promises, fulfilling a few. Then it's big celebration for us to praise you.
Dream killer. To all of you still locked into the live feed, thank you very much for your eyes and ears each and every time, like I always say. Without you, there's no Civic Vibes, huh?
Children have a dream.
Thank you very much, one and all. Brother Lucci, good evening to you, my bro.
So many sent overseas to study, especially those who support the party. Them workers were blue bags that their parents gave you the X. But every time Felicia come on Facebook Live, the thing she exposing makes me want to cry. And I wonder why you acting so sly and how my fears getting by. They say a promise is a comfort to a fool. Some cannot graduate, you don't pay the school. All we hear is excuses and more promises, while the students down on their knees. Some call you a big trickster, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer.
So to our guest tonight, the indomitable Ronald Charles, thank you very much, my brother, for your excellent contribution tonight.
Disregard our mental health while you busy gaining wealth. You're a dream killer.
See you guys next week, same time, same place. Keep the support that you got. Civic Vibes, Sunday from 6.
You're a dream killer.
As the education channel, huh?
You present a lot of things, we believed in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. It is so embarrassing while you there smiling. Baby debts are grumbling, the college waiting.
So let's take the last verse from Nashelle before we bring it to a wrap.
Oh, if Felicia had a dream.
Alvin Thomas, you and the Civic Vibes team, thank you very much.
Anytime, bro.
Last verse from this young lady, and we're out.
With hard work and determination, we can reach our destination through access to capital, education, and mentorship. But consider yourself as a young man, stuck in the cycle of stagnation, where corruption creates limitations and overwhelming sense of frustration. Every day he faces the harsh reality. He cannot provide for his family, losing his dignity and his sanity while still waiting for his opportunity. Some call you a blood sucker, I call you a heartbreaker and a dream killer. We had plenty hope, but no, we can't cope. You're a dream killer. Disregard of mental health while you busy gaining wealth. You're a dream killer. In NEP, working for small money. You're a dream killer. You present a lot of things, we believed in you. Now our life passing by, nothing coming through. Who can run will run, who cannot will stay. Waiting for election day to get a payday. Oh, we have a dream.